Remember
He
to
forgot.
record. There we go.
This only stays on the page now for 30 days. And
Okay.
then, yeah, for some reason, Facebook only keep it for there. But anyway, that's fine because if I record, I can put it on YouTube. So lovely to meet you. Robert Holden, you know, anyone that knows me knows Robert Holden, I think. And he messaged me the other day to say about John and to introduce us. And I thought, oh, well, you've got a book coming out on tomorrow. No, 30th,
Tuesday.
on the 30th. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a Hay House book. Well, you've gone through Hay House as the
Yeah.
publisher, which obviously Robert always does. And so I thought, wow, it'd be amazing just to have a chat about the book, about
Yeah.
you.
Amazing.
And just the first thing that you put, you know, that you were a professional poker player and now you're doing this. So we'd love to hear a bit about you, John. It's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the live, and great to meet you. And also, it's amazing that Robert could connect us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I was on a speaking workshop with him um, last weekend, and yeah, it was amazing learning more about kind of speaking as I'm putting the book out there as well and sharing it with the world, which is really exciting. And yeah, so for people that don't know me, I'm currently a life and mindset coach, but before that, I was a professional poker player, and I did that for 9 years, which was it was amazing. It was really exciting and fun. But with poker, there was a lot of uncertainty and times where, you know, you can go a long time without winning. And for me, it would be a real challenge. And in the early days of playing poker, I didn't really know anything about mindset, about the way that we work, and I hadn't learned much about personal development at all. And while I was playing poker, it was actually a mentor that I had at the time. I was sat in his kitchen in Clapham, and we were sat talking, and I was I was telling him about like how unlucky I was getting playing poker, and I was saying, look, I lost this hand and this hand, and in poker it's called like a bad beat if you get a good hand in and then your opponent gets lucky. And I was telling him about all my bad beat stories, and he said, look, when you tell me about all your bad beat stories, how do you feel? And I said, I don't feel so great. And he said, do you think I ever lose as much as you do? And I said, well, and my friend at the time, he's winning lots of money, he's doing really well playing poker. And I said, well, no, because I don't really see you lose that much. And he said, you don't see it, but it does happen. Um, and he said, and I don't talk about it because when you talk about how much you've lost and how unlucky you are, what you focus on is what expands. So he said something that felt harsh at the time, but I'm grateful he said it later on. As he said, I'm not going to hear any more of your bad beat stories. So I'm going to refuse to hear you kind of share them. So I stopped telling him the bad beat stories, and over the next couple of days and weeks, what I would do is start to look for the wins that I had. And every time I kind of saw a win that I had, um, you know, I felt a bit more positive, and I started thinking, well, maybe I'm not losing all the time, and maybe I'm not so unlucky. And then I saw more and more of it. I felt better. My confidence picked up, and over the next few weeks, I did much better. But I got a really important lesson at that point, and it was that it's not the cards that you're dealt; it's how you play them. It's what you do with them, right? And that started to kind of open up my perspective, and so I really got into how our mind works, like how our perceptions work, and that, you know, I got more into personal development, and the more that I did, the more interested I became, and then eventually started to move across into coaching and helping people as well.
Brilliant. My goodness. You know, it sound because we had a little chat before we started as well, and it just sounds like, you know, once you get a hold of something like the poker, you go right into it and understand it fully. And like now with the mindset coaching, you've gone right into that and really want to understand it completely. So you call yourself the perception coach, which I've
Yes.
never, you know, I remember when I went on Robert's first course, I was sat next to a contentment coach, which I'd never heard of.
Ah,
Well, I mean, everything was pretty new then.
yeah.
But yeah, I've never heard of a perception coach, but that is so relevant at the moment, isn't it? Because of our perception of everything.
Yeah, 100%. The thing that I've learned about perception is because you can change your thoughts, and it does change your world. but your perceptions are really about your understanding of something. So, the same word, even the same thought, can have a different perception for different people. Even if you said to somebody, hey, positive thinking is really helpful. One person will think, yeah, it is. That's amazing because they have an understanding of it. Somebody else will think that's not going to work or it's not going to work for me because of their understanding of it, or maybe a lack of understanding as well. So it's really about our awareness, how aware we are of ourselves and other people. But our perceptions are about our understanding. So as you change your understanding of yourself, the way that you work and the way that the world works, things start to change, and then they start to change almost quite quickly and automatically, so if your perception of somebody, including yourself, changes, you experience yourself differently, and then you start showing up in the world differently. So it's really, it blows my mind, and the more I've learned about it and the more I see people change as well, I just find it really exciting that you can take the same thing or the same person and shift the perception, and then they have a completely different experience of themselves in the world, and it can go from feeling like everything's really unlucky or everything's challenging or you can't do things, or the book that I've written about is like not being ready, and that was the one for me. I always felt like I never felt ready. So I had this perception. So an opportunity would come up and say, hey, Jon, would you want to go and do this? And I'd say, that sounds great, but I'm not ready yet. And so that would be the world that I live in. So I'd put things off till tomorrow, or maybe I'd do it another time, or I'd wait till I had more confidence or more clarity before I took the step. And then I realized that that was a perception. It was a way I was seeing the world through this lens of not feeling ready. And by changing certain aspects of my focus and my understanding and my thoughts, I could then start to choose to be ready, choose to take that step. Even if I think I can't, I could have a different awareness. And then you start doing things you never thought you could, and you get a different experience of yourself, and possibilities and doors start to open up. They were all there in the first place. It's just that you needed to be able to see them to be able to walk through the doors that are already open for you.
Honestly, completely. You can walk along with someone and it's quite negative, and then you say, can you start seeing the positive in that? Just because you're just bringing it to you, like you say, you're just absolutely bringing it to you. If you're seeing so if you go out with the thought red light, every traffic light's going to be red, most likely every traffic light will be red. Like, that's a simplistic, very simplistic, but we're so programmed, not consciously, like unconsciously,
Mm.
from our parents and our parents' parents, from our, everyone around us, not meaning to, but we've just been so indoctrinated in a way to just accept what's in front of us instead of look for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, for me, I don't think anyone's to blame for
Oh,
it when we get stuck. It's you can only go as far as you can see. So if I had £1 million buried underneath my house and I didn't know about it, I'd never know about it. So I'd never dig it up and I'd never go spend it or use the money. And if someone came along in 5 years' time and said, hey, you had £1 million under your house, so you should have been using that and spending that and having a great time with it. Well, how could I should have done it when I didn't know it was there? So when we're blocked, even if we know that we can take the steps and they're right in front of us, if we have a belief or an understanding that blocks us from taking that step, it's not possible. So that's why just bringing awareness to ourselves and our thoughts and what is there, then you can slowly start to shift it and change it. Because those expectations that you're talking about with the red light, I think it's in the book actually that I refer to a moment where my wife and I are sat in traffic, and it's one of the other lanes is moving, and I instantly had the thought, well, no one's going to let me out, so I'll just stay in this lane, right? And then I rather than just keep it in my head, I spoke it out loud to my wife, and I said, "No one's gonna let me out." And she looked at me like, "Come on now," and we both laughed. And I said, "Someone's gonna let me out. Someone's gonna let me out." And then I indicated, and a car flashed, and out we go. And if I'd still had that thought, and I hadn't realized I could change the way I was seeing the situation, we'd still be sat in the traffic jam, and we wouldn't be moving anywhere. So it's just understanding how much bearing, what we think and what we expect and how we see ourselves plays out in what we do and how we create life. And I think it's easy to think that we're describing life by saying this is what I see and this is what's happening and this is what's possible, but really we're creating life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every thought we think, everything we do, we don't even realize just how much it is becoming aware of our thoughts. Your book is actually called Start Before You're Ready.
Yeah.
Start before you're ready. That's so good, isn't it? Because we always want to be perfect. No, it's not perfect, so I'm not ready.
Yeah, the first time I actually met Robert Holden, actually it was virtually on an event that was there's a program that Reed Tracy, the head of Hay House, runs, and it's called Authorpreneur, and it's for authors to learn about how to write and how to create proposals and how to create a book and how to put a book out there into the world. And Robert was one of the guest speakers one week, and I jumped on and I had a question for him um, about during the writing process of the book while I was still writing it. And he asked what the title of the book was, and I said, "Start Before You're Ready." And his reaction was like, it was amazing. It was confirmation for me because he said, "Oh, I'm so jealous I hadn't thought of that title because it's such a great title." And he said, that you know what you're going to get from the book before you even read it. He said a little bit like "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway." That's actually one of my favorite books as well.
Feels,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's had a massive, Susan Jeffers had a massive influence on me. Um, but it's, yeah, you don't feel ready, and you're not meant to. You're not meant to feel ready because you haven't done that thing. And if you think about parenting before you have children, could you ever be ready to have a child? You can read the books and you can practice and you can study. But my wife and I, when we had our daughter, it was on the very first day, and I remember my daughter was on my wife, and all of a sudden she's doing a wee, and we were laughing because we hadn't realized we needed to put a nappy on her. And like you don't know these things until you're in that situation. Then we laugh and then we like deal with it. And then we're like, okay, now we put the nappy on, you've got to learn to do it. And you're learning that. It's a constant journey of not being ready for what's ahead. And that's actually okay. And so when you really kind of start embracing that and embracing the unknown of I don't need to have it all figured out. I don't even need confidence to take the step. I just need to take the step. And just take so much of the pressure off, especially that a lot of society puts on people to be perfect or have all the answers or know what to do. And you can just kind of be okay not knowing and taking those steps. And before you know it, you get experience and you learn and you grow. And then the things that you thought were impossible, then all of a sudden become easy or natural. But we forget sometimes the things that we can do now that are easy or normal were once did seem impossible.
You're talking about acceptance, really, acceptance of self and others. It's so important. I expect there's a bit in the book about that. But also, I just want to say, how did you ever come to want to write the book then? Because that's a big step to write a book.
Yeah, acceptance is it's a massive, massive part of the whole game. Really, acceptance is it, and I do write a big part of in the confidence chapter of the book, which is a powerful chapter.
Mm.
Because if we're not accepting things, we're not really going with them, and we're fighting against them. But once you start to accept things, you can appreciate them as they are, and it's like this. It opens everything up. And then the possibilities start to become available to you. um Remind me of the second part there because I got carried away on
Why
acceptance.
you come to write the book? But
How I came to write the book.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it was funny. I always wanted to be an author. It's like a bucket list thing, dream thing. But I also had the idea that people like me don't write books. I'm not an author. Dream, but doesn't happen to me. And I remember it was around about 8 years ago, a coach actually asked me, "Where would you love to be in 5 years' time if you could have your dream life?" And I said, "Well, I'd love to have a house and have children and have a successful coaching business." And I didn't have I was just starting out at the time, and I'd love to write a book. He was like, if he really pushed, and I said, "Yeah, all right. If you're going to push for real dreams, I would love to write a book, but it doesn't feel possible." So that was there. And then a few years later, and I started to build my coaching business, and my wife and I started a family, and then we actually moved to a house and bought a house together. And I created the possibility that I could be an author. And I just started creating it and visualizing it and saying it to myself. And in the beginning, it did feel a little bit like a lie, and it didn't feel like it was possible. But I kept affirming it for myself. And every night before I went to bed, I would just picture myself being an author and writing and putting a book out there. And then one evening I was in bed and I just opened up my phone and I opened up a Google Doc on my phone. And it was, I remember my wife was away and I was just in bed on my own and I was just relaxing. And I started typing and the words just started coming through. And I didn't know what it was going to be about, what was going to happen. But before I knew it, I'd written best part of the first introduction of a book. And the funny thing was, it wasn't the same title of the book that is now here today. It had a different title. And as I got started, I realized even the process of writing a book seemed overwhelming and daunting, and I wasn't ready. And I thought the only way I'm going to do this is if I start badly. Because when I try and start something perfectly and, I need to know the answers straight away and I need to get it right and I need to do it perfect, there's so much pressure that it creates anxiety and I don't want to start. But if I allow myself to start badly, which means I can make mistakes, I can mess up, I can kind of learn as I go, the same way a child just bumbles their way through and they learn through experience and they learn pretty quickly. So then the idea came to me, start badly. So that was it. I was in and I'm like, I've got this amazing idea for a book. I've written the introduction and then I started to piece together the rest of the book. And I approached Hay House and I I spoke to somebody at Hay House and said, look, I've got this idea for the book and I think it's going to be amazing. And they said, write us a proposal with what the book's about, some sample chapters, how you're going to market the book, what impact it's going to have, all of this stuff. So I went away and I did that. And they said, we really love the idea and we really love what you've put together, but the title Start Badly, we just don't think it's gonna work. So we talked about it a bit more, and I did realize like starting badly, and it is actually in the book. I've squeezed it in because I think it's very important to take the pressure off. It's kind of the first step you want to take. Just it doesn't matter how it goes, just take the step. But then it is this not feeling ready really. And it's being okay to take the step when you feel uncomfortable or don't even have the confidence or you feel messy, but just getting in there and getting out there, that's actually how you build the confidence. It's backwards the way it works. You start badly and then over time you get great, or you make a mistake and then that leads to success. So I spoke to them and then we actually changed the title. I did another proposal. I went all the way back through it. Um, and then finally they agreed and said, yeah, we would be happy to work with you on the book. So it finally went through, but a different title in the end. But I'm super happy with it because it feels like it really captures the message of the book.
Without a doubt, well, like Robert said, it just absolutely, what's going to be in there practically, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, how helpful that is going to be. Because I don't think anyone really ever feels ready for anything they're going to do when it's out of their comfort zone, I guess.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about there is, again, is acceptance of that's how I feel.
Yeah. And I think that because the journey never ends. This is the thing about this book. Um, you go and do something, you don't feel ready, you master it, and then you get to this level of comfort. And I've experienced it over the last year or so where you almost start to feel like something's a little bit missing or um, something's not quite right. And it's because you hit a level of comfort where you're comfortable, and you need a new challenge or something different to do. And that's when, again, then you don't feel ready for it because wanting to feel ready, it's like you want to know it's going to work. You want to have certainty of the outcome's going to be there. It might be getting into a relationship and you just want to know, I want to know this is the right person. They're not going to let me down and it's all going to go okay before you dive in. Or it's a business and you say, I want to know this business is going to succeed and people are going to want to buy my product and it's all going to work out before you do it. And you just cannot have that certainty. So feeling uncomfortable, not feeling ready and taking that step, it never ends, this journey. And it's just getting used to those feelings and getting used to um, even the thoughts that come along with it, because that's one of the things I do talk about in the book is that there's a bit of a myth when it comes to confidence that you need to be confident in order to be able to take the step. And confidence is like thinking that having certainty all the time and being sure about things and knowing it's going to work out and being sure about yourself. But for me, I believe real confidence is actually noticing all of those thoughts and the doubts that you have and just being aware with them. That's that acceptance piece of just being aware with them and being with them but not buying into them. It's just a thought. It's not a reality. It's not the truth of who you are. And with awareness, you can start to change those thoughts, and you can take steps that actually go against some of the thoughts that limit you and prove to them that they're not true. And that's the piece where, I learned that a lot playing poker. Even the very best players in the world, they go through periods of time where they doubt themselves. If you go through what's called a downswing, where, and some of the best players in the world, it can be days, weeks, months, or even years at a time where they don't win. You start to think, am I still good? Can I really do this? Am I cut out for this? And those thoughts are natural. You're just inquiring, but you don't have to believe them, and you don't have to start going down the rabbit holes that they create. You can have this awareness of the thoughts, and that stops you kind of limiting yourself and staying stuck.
Saying about limiting, I mean, that is what we do. We do limit ourselves by think or worrying what other people think of us.
Yeah.
That's a big thing as well, I think, where we do consider what others think, or family that's close to us. You want people around you that's going to boost and encourage you, and that's a big thing, really.
Massively. I just put a video out today actually on stop caring what people think about you. And again, there's a chapter in the book on that as well, because it's such a big point. One of I was crippled by what people think about me. And I didn't realize how much it had an effect on me, but it determined all of the options I would have in life, because everything that I was doing was around the idea of, would people like me if I did this? And would people approve of me if I did this? And the problem you got to see with that is that if you do really have big ambitions and goals for yourself, other people are not going to have, they're not going to be thinking that big, and they're not going to be seeing those possibilities. So, you might want to go and speak on stage, but to the people around you, they're worried you're going to embarrass yourself or look silly, because that's their own worries being projected onto you. I
Yeah.
remember when I first set up a page on Instagram, and I had a couple of hundred followers at the time, and I was starting to build up to a few more followers, and I was putting videos out around personal development and mindset and everything we're talking about today. And I remember somebody came up and they spoke to me, and they said, you're not worried that you're like embarrassing yourself with everything that you're putting out there? It's quite you're putting a lot of stuff out there. And I paused for a moment, and I felt what I was feeling about it. And there was, there's a doubt, do I look silly? And then I just caught it. And I remember just this weightlifting and feeling really free. And I caught that this was that person's own projection of, they would be terrified to do that. And the moment I caught that, I just felt grounded again in myself. And I was able to kind of let that go and be free again. And I went out and did tests to really kind of overcome this fear of what people thought about me. And one of the big tests I did, and it's fun because I went back to the very spot, it was in London, where I did this challenge. A couple of last week actually, I was in London, and what I did was I went to in the tube station in London, where in between the Northern Line and the Central Line, there's like this very busy intersection there. And what I did to overcome my fear of what people thought about me is I just led down on the floor in public for 30 seconds, just in the middle of the whole section. And people would just walk around me. And I just lie there for 30 seconds because it's very random. You look a bit silly, just to overcome that fear of judgment. And it took me 5 times to build up the courage to finally be able to do this challenge. And I would go there and I said, today's the day I'm going to do it. I'm going to lie down. I'm going to overcome my fear. And I couldn't do it. And I couldn't do it. And then finally the day came. And I was just thinking, like, what if I get arrested? What if this goes wrong? What if people laugh at me? What if I can't handle it? And I thought all of that. And then I led down on the floor for 30 seconds. And what I noticed was people were just walking past me. They didn't really pay that much attention to me. They're just in their heads doing their own thing. I had one kind older lady came and asked me if I was okay, which was really sweet. And I said I'm fine. I'm all good. And then the time was up, and I jumped up, and I just felt a real shift inside me of that this thing that I thought was going to be so terrible wasn't that bad. And then since then, I did different challenges and other things as well. But I just started to test that idea that I needed to do things that other people would like me for, or I couldn't handle being judged. And the more that I did it and the key part of this really is just not judging yourself and accepting yourself, regardless if other people judge you. You then just start to get comfortable with yourself. Because before that, it was like I'd have to have everyone's approval before I did something. And if I did it and people didn't like it, then I'd have to retreat and I'd have to go back. And it was like two steps forward and one step back. But with this, it's like the only approval I really need is my own. Am I doing something that aligns with my values? Does it feel right to me? And if it does, then I'm going to do it. And it just then starts to create a real freedom. And I do think that, you can still care about others without caring what they think of you. But when you really get to that point where you don't care, you experience an immense amount of personal freedom. And then just new levels of yourself start to open up, because then you can start to express yourself in new ways that you might have held back, or go and do things that you didn't want to do previously. And I've definitely noticed this about my own spiritual journey over the years. I'm definitely a far more spiritual person than I give myself credit for, and that's evolving, and it's kind of coming out more the further I go along the journey. But it takes time. You put yourself out there, and you talk about things that some people won't understand, or maybe don't like, or it tests their own reality. But the
Yes.
more comfortable you are in yourself, the easier it becomes to do that.
And how easy was it to call yourself a perception coach then?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I first started, my name for my Instagram account, because that's where I started putting things out to share, what I'd learned. I'd learned this stuff about personal development and how to change your mindset and yourself. And I was so like excited to share it with people that I started putting it out online. I was just like, if I'm experiencing this, how life was before, and then what it was like when you start, and I know you've learned a lot yourself and practiced a lot, and had lots of transformations, and you just want to share it. You're just like so excited. So I created this Instagram page, and initially I was called the Muse Fox because I love foxes. Here's a little here's a little fox
Oh,
there
love it.
on my desk. Yeah, I just have a real love for foxes. I think they're very magical. And then I lived in a muse, and that was the name. But then as it grew, I thought I do need a name that feels more aligned. And I don't know if you've heard of the Body Coach. You ever heard of the Body Coach, Joe Wicks? And
Yes,
he
yes.
was the very reason I went on Instagram in the first place, because I used to follow his workouts and his all his meals that he made. He made it really simple to stay fit and healthy, and it's really inspiring. And then one day it just occurred to me, I want to do the same thing for people's well-being and their mental well-being as that he's doing for the body. And I was like, the perception coach. It makes sense because I love like shifting perceptions. And then the name was just born, and it's always felt really aligned, and I've always felt really good about it.
Lovely. Love that. So interesting. It had to have been a big thing for you to decide to go to Hay House because, like a lot of people think, I'll self-publish
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
but you went straight to Hay House.
Yeah, so there's a couple of parts of this. The first thing is, we spoke about this, but before we jumped on the live, about Wayne Dyer. He was one of the first
Yes,
people that you got introduced to. I
absolutely.
mean,
Yes,
for me, I'm really gutted that I never got to see him, because he passed
actually.
away before I'd come across him, I think. Um, but he had a massive impact on me. I learned so much from him. He's inspired so much of what I do. Even the last story of the book is one of his stories. And so Hay House he was a Hay House author, and wrote a lot with them. So the publishing house, before I even connected with them, had a very special like meaning to me. And then as I was writing the book, and it was being created, a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should really publish it." And this is where it all began, because I had this thought of the moment he said it, I went, nah, I'll write the book, I'll get it all finished, and then when it's done, I'll either just self-publish it, or then I'll think about going to some publishers. Like when I've got it done and I know it's good and I've got it all set. And I laughed and I caught myself and I said, all right, yeah, okay. I'll speak with Hay House, and because he said I can put you in touch with them if you want. So,
Wow.
it's a massive opportunity. So I said, yes, okay, let's go. And I didn't feel ready. I felt real like a massive imposter, that is this going to be good? Who am I to write a book and all of this stuff? But I know, feel that feeling and take that step. What's the worst that can happen is you fail or you look silly, but I can handle that, get over that, and then you go again. So I said yes. and then things unfolded after that. So, and it was just really, really special to be like published with Hay House. They're an amazing publisher. They've got incredible authors, a great community, and yeah, it's just
Help
been a cool.
promote it as well, I imagine, quite well.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I definitely will need to do a lot of promotion myself. That's the way it works in today's world. But absolutely, they've got a very big audience and a lot of people that like reading books as well and personal development books. So yeah, they'll give it the best kind of possible chance of getting into people's hands for people to read it.
Brilliant. Well, we've done a couple of well, three actually, inspirational, motivational, uplifting days with positive speakers. At Romsey, well, we've done two at Romsey with different speakers and one in Poole. And we've got another one coming up in March, but I haven't advertised it yet. And I've asked you, and you've said yes, you'll come along as be a speaker, because
Yeah,
actually you live in Hampshire as well, which is ideal. Not because of
yeah,
that, I'm sure you would have travelled, but that
yeah,
will be amazing. The last one we did, I did ask John O'Looney, bit controversial. So I was a bit concerned, really. He came in on Zoom for the day, but live to us. And he's what his message is. He's very brave to say what he says, and so I was just a bit concerned because all the other speakers were definitely, I knew they were going to be inspirational and motivational. He got a standing ovation. I mean, it was just emotional. It absolutely was. So it's really lovely to share that. And then we went to Glastonbury a couple of weeks ago, and there was Adrian, a really good friend of mine, who actually started. I think I was the first one that ever interviewed him on here, about 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway, so he ran this amazing event in Glastonbury a couple of weeks ago, and it's so uplifting. I think we said just before we come on, to do an in-person event is just the energy and everything is just wonderful, isn't it?
yeah. There's something really magical about being in person. When I talk with clients about this, when the different degrees of connecting with people, like there's text message, which is like the first level where you might text a friend, and that's one way of communicating. And then you have a phone call, and then that's like the next level, and you can hear them and you can sense they're there and everything. And then you do join on Zoom like we are now, and it's like you can see each other and you can feel the energy, and you're connecting even deeper. And then there's being in person, and it's like all the barriers are being removed. There's nowhere to hide. You're there, you're in each other's presence, and the energy gets exchanged. And it's really, really powerful. And especially when you're around people that are of a higher level of consciousness and presence, and that energy, you pick that up. And I've heard it being described as like osmosis, especially if you're around teachers, people that you're learning from, or mentors, etc. It's like your osmosis, you're like downloading and picking up the energy and the ideas and the wisdom just being around them. So getting in rooms where people are excited about their own personal growth and learning and positivity, it can just have like an amazing effect. And you find like you come away from those events with more energy and presence, and you kind of like then take that into the next few days, weeks, and months going on. I was curious, what was the talk that John did that got the ovation?
Oh, because he's a funeral director.
Ah,
So, but what he's being brave enough to do is to say to people, it could be controversial, but certainly right at the start, I went to Hemel Hempstead and saw him in person doing a talk. And as a funeral director, he was being very honest about what he was seeing and the difference. And we're talking like 4 years ago. So at that time, what he was seeing, the difference in what was happening in the funeral industry. He's just a very brave man to say what he's seeing. And I think he stopped a lot of people from having a substance put into them, um,
right.
because of what he had seen. And so,
Mm,
yeah, amazing man. And his talk was, and he brought his little 11-year-old child with him to that first talk in Hemel Hempstead. And then I did a talk with him on here. And then I asked him if he would join us, but he couldn't come down because obviously you know, it's a set 24/7. Is that what you say? 24/7 being a funeral director.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, he gave the time to come on for 40 minutes and do a talk for us. And honestly,
nice.
everyone was mesmerized. Like, and to get a standing ovation, he could feel the energy. He was emotional at the end. It really was amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he must have really moved people.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Because it wasn't, you know, it could have sounded negative or whatever, but because he was doing such a good job in what he was sharing with people,
Mm,
you know, it's for our children.
yeah,
It's very important for our children what his message is to know. Anyway, won't go into all of that,
yeah.
but he really, it was wonderful. Yeah, but we had different people, different speakers there, which escaped me at the minute. We've had Diana Cooper, Sue Stone. Um, I don't want to say too many names because then the ones I forget will be, oh, Tim Wilde, obviously. Do you know Tim Wilde?
I don't know Tim Wilde. No, I know
No,
Stuart Wilde, but not Tim Wilde.
no, there's a lot of Wildes, isn't there?
Mm.
Different spellings as well. I was thinking of that today because I went past a road that said Wild Close, and I thought, God, how many spellings are there for wild? I've just been down Cornwall with my friend Mandy Wild. Anyway, but Tim Wilde, yeah, he's an ascension master.
Ah,
All
okay.
about the ascension. So where you say about spirituality, I'm very, you know, into spirituality,
Yeah.
and obviously Tim is, well, not next level, but very much about the ascension. You know, spirituality is our loved ones, as I think of it, that have passed over. But we're also in this time of ascension. So from 2012 to 2032 is the ascension period. And this
Hmm.
would be a very different world by 2032, which Diana Cooper has said for many, many years. And so yeah, just had talks like that. I think the last one we did was surrounded completely about the ascension, different speakers that would, you know, put their take on the ascension. But
Yeah, I think.
anyway, yes. And another thing, while you were speaking, when you said about laying down on the floor, I
Yeah.
know I just mentioned to you that in 2017, Joe Dispenza came to us in Southampton. We hired the I mean, we'd need a lot more than that. We'd have to go to the O2 if he came now.
Mhm.
But at that time in 2017, we hired the Southampton football room upstairs and had 500, just under 500 people there.
Wow.
Um, but that was amazing because how things flow into your life. So I had done those 8 years of in-person talks, and I'd heard about Hay House, Louise Hay. You know, you train with as a Louise Hay speaker,
Yeah.
life coach,
Hmm.
and so Paul Scadding is a Louise Hay life coach, and he came along. I'd never met him before. Just about to sign the contract to see Joe Dispenza, to bring him over. I'd never had to sign a contract before. But during that evening that Paul was doing his talk, he fell down on the floor. I mean, it was a very fun evening, really fun, really uplifting sort of evening. And then he had to get the train back from Southampton to Bournemouth. And so I drove into the station, had an hour to wait. So we were sat in the car, and I don't know, he said something about Joe Dispenza, and I was busting to tell someone, but I hadn't told anyone that I'd got Joe Dispenza. And he was an events manager. Can you ever believe it? It was that close to me, and I didn't know how I was going to put this
Yeah.
massive event on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was an events manager. And then he brought another lady that was full of all the media stuff. The three of us, it was just an incredible, incredible experience. And when
Yeah.
something's meant to work, it's meant to work, isn't it? Because that absolutely flowed.
Yeah, that's where the things that are outside, when you're really on purpose and your intention is very clear and you're putting a lot of energy behind it, you're doing all the things you need to do, taking all the actions, and the universe is conspiring with you to make it happen. And the synchronicities and the people that pop up and the opportunities that are there, they're all around you, but they just start to become available. And those are all the things kind of outside of your control, but when you're really tuned in, they just start showing up, and it's like
So,
they're there, but if you're not, if you don't have Joe Dispenza coming and you're not organizing an event, you're not going to notice when that person's there, or you're not going to start attracting them. But when you really are on purpose and you're clear about it, it's just that those people start showing up. And the number of times where this happens, it's just it never fails to blow my mind. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, this is kind of how it works.
Love it. I love it. I really look forward to you doing the talk for us. It's March the 28th next year in
Yep.
Romsey. And yeah, I've only just, there's nothing online about that yet. I'm just organising all the speakers. Yeah, and I've got to get confirmation from different ones yet. So I'm hoping in the next month that'll be out online to say that that's what we're doing. And I'm delighted that you'll be there. I think Ray Savage is possibly going to start us with the um, heart maths and the breathing, because breathing, I don't know if that's in your book, anything about our breath, because I'm such a shallow breather, or,
Yeah.
many people are, and realizing how, like, you never stop learning, do you?
No, and yeah, but I have a section actually about like meditation, because it's very important. And meditation,
Yes.
you use the breath, but I learned that myself through speaking, because I know how important breathing is to speaking and being like in your body and being present and grounding yourself as well, right? And but breathing deeply is like it's breathing from the belly, because we either breathe from the chest or breathe from the belly. And you think that even when you're breathing deeply from your chest, it's not as deeply, and it doesn't slow your heart rate down as well. But when you breathe through the belly, like big breaths in and out through the belly, it just calms you, slows down your mind and your body, and gets you really present. And it makes a real difference, especially if you're doing something that can stimulate you and create stress. It can really drop you down into your body and get you present again.
Take away the fear and flight thing. Just realize that you're back within you. Yeah.
It's yeah, there was at the speaking workshop I was at last weekend, the lady running it, Gail Larson, she's phenomenal, like absolutely amazing, like speaker trainer, but just person in terms of transformation. And she had this quote from Fritz Perls, and she said that excitement is fear is excitement without the breath. And I thought it was amazing, because that's literally like when you're going to speak and you're like, and you're not really breathing. It's like you're fearful, but then you breathe, and it's like you just
I
relax,
love
and
that.
then yeah,
I'm definitely going to look that lady up.
yeah,
Thank you so much, John. It's been lovely talking with you.
yeah. Thank you, Jackie. It's been a real honor to join you. Thanks for having me.
Look forward to getting your book and reading it, because honestly, I do feel
Oh
that's going
yeah,
to be a good one. Oh, yeah, by all means,
here it
show it.
is. There you
There it
go.
is.
Start
And
before you're
that's
ready.
just so clear, isn't it? Like, that's it.
Yeah, I love
Did you understand?
it's got
Why
the
did you go black on the before?
so that was working with the amazing art team at Hay House. And it's because it's like, and you got the line underneath it, because it's that
Before you
before is
are
it's the
ready.
change, yeah, because
Yes.
you take that out, start, you're ready, you
Oh,
know.
pretty
And
good.
it's
Yeah.
that before,
Brilliant.
we're waiting. um and it's really cool. I love that, how that line, and the lines throughout the book, it's underneath the chapter headings. It's just a real cool theme. So it's
Love it.
just a reminder of like, start, you're ready, like you already are. It's just I guess the last thing I'll leave everyone with is you know we don't feel ready, but you can make the decision that you are. And ultimately that's what it leads to, is being ready is a decision rather than a feeling. And if, trust your feelings, trust your body, but know that you can handle it, and know that you can take that step. And once you make that decision and you follow it up with action, magical things happen.
I love that. Thank you so much, John. Thank you,
Thanks,
anyone that's
Jackie.
watching. And if you've been drawn to watch this, then obviously you're ready.
100%. That's the first step, is just showing up. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Jackie. Thank you.
Bye.